The Non-Commercial Portfolio Application Service, a new way of applying for CRN support. The new Non-Commercial Portfolio Application Service in the NIHR Clinical Research Network Central Portfolio Management System enables researchers to apply directly to the NIHR Clinical Research Network for support. At this time, the new service is only available to non-commercial English-led clinical trials of investigational medicinal product studies, applying for approval through the Health Research Authority and Medicine and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency's Combined Review Service, and English-led studies that do not need and therefore are not applying for HRA approval. For example, studies running outside the NHS. All other study types should apply for CRN support in the usual way, either through IRAS or via their local clinical research network. The rollout of the service to other study types will take place in a phased manner. This video will explain who can use the new service and will outline how to use it to make an application for NIHR CRN support. Logging into the Central Portfolio Management System. In order to use the Non-Commercial Application Service, you'll need to log into CPMS. If you do not already have a CPMS account, instructions on how to set up an account can be found on our website. If you have any difficulties, please contact Support My Study at nihr.ac.uk. Once you've logged into the Central Portfolio Management System, you will arrive on the home page. The left-hand side menu can be expanded by hovering over it. The options you will see will depend on whether or not you have studies or applications associated with your account. New users with no associated studies will only see the top two options, Home and Apply for CRN support. Creating a new application/study record. To begin your application for CRN support for a new study, click the green Apply for CRN support button on the home page, or select the Apply for CRN support option in the left-hand side menu. On the next screen, select Non-Commercial to enter the Non-Commercial Portfolio Application Service. Selecting Commercial will take you into the Commercial Submissions area. If you are not sure whether your study is a non-commercial or commercial study, please contact us at supportmystudy@nihr.ac.uk for advice before continuing your application. Once you've selected your study type, click Continue. The next screen outlines which studies are able to use this service. You should read this information page and continue if you are satisfied that your study meets the criteria. The study is a clinical trial of a medicinal product applying for approval through the Health Research Authority and Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency's Combined Review Service. Or, the study does not require and is therefore not applying for HRA approval in the Integrated Research Application System. The study is being led from England. The study is not yet open to recruitment, and the study is not solely supported by another part of the NIHR infrastructure, such as a biomedical research centre or applied research collaboration. If your study does not meet this criteria, you should cancel your application and apply via the usual route, either through IRAS or by contacting your local clinical research network. If your study meets the criteria, check the confirmation box at the bottom of the screen and then click Continue. Read the information provided on the next screen regarding how data you provide to the NIHR CRN will be used. Links to the CPMS privacy policy and CPMS terms and conditions documents are provided. If you are satisfied with this, check the box to confirm and then click Continue. You are now ready to enter the information required to create your new study record. You need to complete all of the fields on this page. First, enter the short and long title of your study. The titles you enter will be used to create your study record and you will not be able to change them later. All CTIM studies seeking approval through the Combined Review Service are required to apply for HRA approval, so should select Yes to the IRAS permissions question. Your 7-digit IRAS ID should now be entered. If you do not already have an IRAS ID, you will need to create one in IRAS. Support with this can be obtained by contacting the HRA. If your study does not require HRA approval, and you do not have an IRAS ID, select No. If your IRAS ID is already associated with a study in CPMS, please contact us for advice before proceeding. You must next indicate the role you have in the study. This will enable us to link your account to the correct system role so that you have access to the appropriate study records. If you are not the Chief Investigator, you should select Study Coordinator. On submission, the person named as the Chief Investigator will be notified that the submission has been made. Currently, only studies led from England can apply through this form. If your study is led from a devolved administration, please exit the form and contact your national coordinating function. The final question on this screen asks you to select your local clinical research network. If you are unsure who your local clinical research network is, use the link to find out. We encourage investigators to contact their local team as soon as possible in their study lifecycle, so as to make the best use of our early contact and engagement service, as well as to receive support in making an application. However, if you've not already been in touch, your local CRN will be notified when you submit your application and will contact you to offer their support. Once you have populated all fields, click Continue to create your study record and access the full application form. If you cancel your application before this point, your information will not be saved. Populating the non-commercial portfolio application form. Your skeleton study record has now been created. You should now work through the 4 tabs of the application form: Administration and Management, Study Location, Study Design and Attachments, and populate them with the information on your study. You can save and exit your application at any time. Before continuing, please ensure that you've discussed your study with the sponsor and received their approval to make this application, that you've secured grant funding to cover the full research costs of your study, in line with the Department of Health and Social Care attributing the cost of health and social care research policy. You'll be asked to upload evidence of funding as part of your application, and that you've developed a study protocol, as you will also be asked to upload this as part of your application. There are a number of question types in the application. Fields that do not need to be completed are marked as optional. All others must be completed before submission. We would encourage you to supply as much information as possible about your study, as this will reduce the need for subsequent queries and enable us to better support your study. Some questions provide a search option. To use this, begin typing, and once you've entered 3 characters, the system will offer a drop-down list of possible hits. Keep typing to refine the options. If you cannot find the option you want, you may enter free text instead. When answering a group of linked questions, for example the collaborators field, you must press save before moving on, otherwise your data will be lost. Additional entries, for example an additional collaborator, can be added using the Add button. Help text is provided throughout, including additional information on the Attachments tab. Please read this and ensure the documents you supply meet our requirements, otherwise your application may be returned to you. Submitting an application. CPMS will check your application as you work through it. If an entry is invalid, it will be highlighted in red. Once all mandatory questions on a tab are complete, a tick will appear. Once there is a tick present on all 4 tabs, you are ready to submit your application. To do this, click Submit Your Application at the bottom of the Attachments tab. If you attempt to submit before all fields are completed, you will receive an error message asking you to complete the missing information. When you submit your form, an automatic email will be sent to the Chief Investigator, Sponsor, and Lead Local Clinical Research Network to inform them that an application for CRN support has been made. The information you supply will be used to review your application and determine whether your study is eligible to receive support from the CRN. If your application is successful, the information you have entered will also be used to populate your CPMS study record. Information on which studies are eligible for support can be found on our website. Viewing and monitoring the progress of an application. Following submission of your application, you will see a confirmation screen. Clicking OK will take you to a list of all your applications. This list can also be accessed by clicking My Non-Commercial Applications on the left-hand menu of the CPMS homepage. The list includes all of the applications that you have made and where they are within the review process. Studies that you have not yet submitted will have an application status of draft. This will change to pending validation when you submit your form. At this point, you'll no longer be able to edit your application. On receipt, the NIHR CRN will check that we have everything we need and that your application is valid, before starting to review it against the DHSE eligibility criteria for NIHR CRN support. If the CRN decides that the application is not valid, you will also receive an email outlining what updates are required to progress the application. The application status will change to Action Required, and the form will be editable again. Once you have made the requested updates, you should resubmit the application to the NIHR CRN. Once the CRN are satisfied that the application is valid, the user who submitted it will be notified by email, and the application status will change to In Progress. Once a decision has been made, an email notification will be sent, and the application status will be updated. If your application is deemed eligible for CRN support, it will be marked complete. If your application is deemed ineligible, it will be marked complete, open to appeal, and you will have 10 working days in which to appeal the decision. The reason for the decision will be communicated via email, and any appeal should be made via email addressing the issues that have been identified. The outcome of your appeal will be confirmed by email, and your application status will then be marked complete. Once your application is complete, your study record will be updated to indicate its eligibility status. If it is eligible, data items from your application will be copied across. At this point, you should expect to receive further information from your LCRN and the CRN delivery team to support the setup and delivery of your study. Closing comments. A user guide has been produced and is available on our NIHR Learn platform. If you require further support, please contact your lead local CRN or email supportmystudy@nihr.ac.uk.